And speaking of community building, Solutions Now is a non-for-profit charitable organization that was founded in response to the social issues and ongoing injustices affecting Black and Brown communities. Through their programs, the organization has been able to create partnerships with community leaders, organizations, individuals, and donors to create meaningful solutions to help people in marginalized communities. And joining us to tell us more about Solutions Now, please welcome co-founder Richard Habersham. Hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rhina. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I have to say, based on everything that I have read, that Solutions Now has been able to accomplish in what I'm calling our pandemic era is really, really remarkable. So congratulations on what you've already been able to accomplish with this mission, right? So one of the things that stands out for me is your design. You have this, I want to say, out the box approach to how it is this non-for-profit is to be of service. So can we just share with our viewers like what it is that makes Solutions Now so uniquely different from just a community-based non-for-profit that is of service as well?
Well, sure. I mean, I think most of, your traditional nonprofit is usually, dedicated to doing just one thing, whether it be addressing food insecurity, fighting cancer, whatever it may be. Solutions Now is coming from a different place. I'm born and raised in Harlem, and and this community has given me almost everything that I've ever asked it. There's so many resources in New York City. It has, 3 of the greatest universities in the world. It has some of the, greatest, cultural institutions in the world. It's got some of the best lawyers, some of the best scientists, some of the best best restaurants. And I've always struggled with the idea that there's so many good people that want to give back to the community, but they just don't know how. So Solutions Now was conceived as a way in which we could perhaps, bring, bring to bear all of the talent that we have and the willingness that so many people want to help, and try to help those in underserved communities like Harlem and the Bronx, and try to get those people in the same room and, to advance whatever social goals that we could advance. I ran for Congress in the last cycle, and the idea from Solutions Now was initially to be like a storefront 311, a kind of place where you could go and say, hey, my daughter just got into college. I want to know about scholarships. Or, hey, I live in a NYCHA building and I can't get, my sink fixed. I mean, just a soup to nuts sort of place where you had informed people working that could help the community and help people who walked in and give them instant solutions now to their problems. So that's where it came from. And if I just might add, this also came from the prism of wanting to run for political office, to do something for, to give something back to my community. And what I started to realize was that, you could go to Washington or you could go to Albany or City Hall, and it could take 20 years to pass something meaningful, something that moves the needle. Whereas if we just looked at, there's so many existing laws that are on the books that can help people that are just being ignored. So we found out, for example, in NYCHA buildings, that for every job that's over $100,000, which is almost every job, in every large-scale job, 30% of the workforce is supposed to be from the NYCHA development, right? It's called Section 3. So if we could just go and make sure things like that are being enforced, because of course, you and I know that if you go to any work site at NYCHA, you can tell that, a third of the workforce is not coming from that housing development. So there are existing laws, existing regulations that are in place that aren't being followed. So how do we hold their feet to the fire and make sure, people follow what's already law? So those are sort of the two ideas how Solutions Now came together.
Right. And so one of the things that you opened up with was the traditional versus being non-traditional. And usually through the traditional, there's a mission in which you are following through and abiding by, right? And that is your objective. And yet what I've noticed here, based on reading this presentation, this it's almost like a bullet point. You've actually been able to tackle the issue with food, with voting, with even whatever, providing mobilization to transporting food for like 80,000 people. You also have a baseball league for young ladies, Correnas. So it's really all these different, they're entirely different respective industries within themselves under the umbrella of Solutions Now. So how do you decide, like how is that even chosen, like these particular movements?
So, we that's what, to keep us motivated. The problem with, non-for-profits traditionally is that you go in for one mission, and then a lot of the folks, after years and years of doing the same thing, a lot of folks get bored and they want to move on to another place where they can do something fresh and exciting. So we conceive the Solutions Now as something that would be constantly moving and constantly addressing different issues. And that's just to keep us sane and keep us motivated and keep us excited about what our mission is. So when we were conceived last April, so we're about a year old, we looked around and said, these are not, we're not, our long-term goal isn't, we want to continue to feed the community and offer those kind of services. But we looked around and we said, what is the problem right now? And the problem right now, or back then, was that people weren't getting, seniors in particular, were having difficulty getting food. So over the course of the next, 8 or 9 months, we delivered over 150,000 meals with the help of World Central Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And so me and my co-founder, Aaron Ruby, were always, trying. So that was the problem then. So Aaron and I said, all right, World Central Kitchen's got the food, right? How do we get it to the seniors? Their problem was they couldn't distribute the food. So back to what I was saying before, we went and found a trucking company, called them up and said, hey, can we borrow your trucks? Are you guys busy? Can we use your trucks for delivery? So they said yes. And of course, the trucks were the delivery, so we were that middle piece where we found the trucks and we were able to distribute along with our volunteers to distribute the meals. So that is sort of an example of how we sort of work. We're trying to find that missing link. So in this case, we were the last mile for how this food actually went from, World Central Kitchen into the mouths of people, right? So
it's definitely inspiring though. It's inspiring, right? Because now we're talking about mobilization unified, because like you said, without placing yourself in this role of being almost like a broker, right? Because you're not necessarily benefiting from it financially, but you are brokering it.
Yes, that's close. It's almost like we're a broker of good deeds, and so that was those were the most urgent needs that the community had. We also got, 1,000 N95 masks for Lincoln Hospital, in the Bronx. So those were all very, very urgent, like the house is on fire kind of stuff. Now that sort of the fire seems to be a little bit better under control, we've switched our focus to sort of looking more at pathways to vocations. What I'm really, really passionate about is I feel like, hey, listen, if you can get a kid, a job, a $40 or $50 an hour job in a union working as an electrician or a plumber, that person can not only pull himself out of poverty, but he can pull his mother out of poverty, he can pull his grandmother out of poverty, and he can pull his children out of poverty. So how do we move the needle? So how do we get, I always hear these unions say, or you always say, we need more people of color. So why don't we hold them to the fire and say, hey, all right, you're saying you want more minorities and black and brown people? I am going to ask you point blank, and that's what we're doing right now, is creating programs that will send people directly into these jobs. They don't have to figure out how you get it, go to these secret websites or whatever have you. We will take you from the beginning, take your hand and say, you want to be an electrician? Come with us, we'll do that. And that's something that's super, important and passionate for me.
I can tell you're passionate about everything you've been doing. And I wish we had more time to discuss even more, but I think that was a wonderful note for us to end on, because it does leave us with this sense of hope and and also this outlet that if you're in need, which is what Richard's just sharing, right? Like, don't be intimidated, don't be afraid. They're prepared to hold your hand from beginning to end to get you to that next destination of generating revenue and elevating your existence and your contribution to society.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your
Rhina,
commitment to our community.
thank you for what you do, because if the word isn't spread through people like you, no one's going to know. So we're all on the same team.
Absolutely. Like I said, unified. We're all in this together. Exactly. Cheers. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you, Rhina. Bless you. It was such a pleasure. Hope to come back sometime soon with more news to report.
Looking forward to it. And
God
you
bless
guys, once again, for more on Solutions Now, all you got to do is visit their website by going to solutionsnow.org. Okay, we have to take.
There's a hyphen in there, solutions-now.org.
Okay, so you heard that, solutions-now.org. All right.
Thanks, Rhina. Bless you.
Oh gosh, you guys, we got to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to hear about a cosmetic line celebrating Latinx culture. Don't go anywhere.